Police Chief Mark Schauf when it comes to a controversial photo of high schoolers on the steps of the courthouse there. Thanks again for sticking around and talking to us this morning.
Glad to be here.
Let's start with where the investigation into that photo is at this point, what you're looking at.
Well, the investigation is still open, so I can't comment on specific details of it. One of the areas that has been some confusion, and I've heard from many people about, is First Amendment rights versus what we as the police can look at and investigate. We will not be looking at anything that involves the First Amendment. Our job is to determine if there's violations of the state laws or any federal laws that would be appropriate that we as the police can enforce and take appropriate steps to charge those if we can. So the investigation will be something similar to, and the police do this all the time, and some of your viewers may have had students in school that have been harassed on Facebook. So we're looking at why the photograph was actually posted, and if by posting it was an intent to do harm to someone, maybe there's something there. It's important also for people to understand that I can't just call social media outlets, Facebook or Twitter, and say, hey, give me the information on who. I need a search warrant to do that, or I need a subpoena to do that. I need a court document. To get those documents, I need a judge's order, and to have a judge's order, I need probable cause to show that a crime was committed and that that person may have committed that crime, or that evidence is germane to that. So it's all part of the investigation.
Yeah, and so there's a definite possibility here, just because of that process and how complicated it can be for you, that we may never learn who posted this. I mean, this is a secret account.
There is anonymous part to the internet that is very challenging for us. We can find IP. I know that the TV shows love to show that they can solve any crime in 30 minutes or less. It's a little different in real life, and much more complicated in real life.
And speaking of complications and just the effect of all of this, can we talk a little bit about what you've seen the community and mostly the kids in the schools kind of endure after this came out?
Yeah, last week was a really long week for us in Baraboo. We had not only the challenge of what was put out there, the picture, but we also had the challenge of the visceral response, and people are really outraged, and I understand why they're outraged. I really do, and that's not a bad thing. Outrage isn't a bad thing when you've been offended or have issue, but the bigger key is how can we push that forward. So because of some of those outrage, we've had a lot of threats. We've had a lot of calls to not only the school district, the school board, the school district superintendent, but to the mayor, to the city administrator, to the police department. Threats, and we've all been called things that none of us ever anticipated.
And the school district is moving forward with this 3-part program to promote healing within the district, within the community. But we were talking a little bit off camera about how, you know, this is a longer conversation about education.
It is, and not only just conversation, but the community. And any school has the job of educating the youth, and I like to tell the kids, you know what, all those things they're teaching you, the math, the science, and all that, that's a trick. What the teachers are actually teaching you is to be responsible.
What the research has found,
and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for people that can come out into our community and be productive members of our community and of our society. And so this conversation has to be longer than just 1, 2, or 3 events. And it has to make us as a community, and quite frankly, this conversation has to see if we can make even the nation a little bit better.
Yeah. And speaking of kind of moving forward, there is the meeting tonight, the community meeting. You'll be there. The school administrator is going to be there. You know, just briefly, any hopes for this meeting tonight in your eyes?
Anytime people come together to talk, there's hope. Yeah. I'm kind of old school. I'm not a big fan of social media. I don't have any of those accounts. I would prefer to talk to you one-on-one. I would prefer to look you in the eyes and have a conversation, because now we have the ability to not only interact, but connect. Yeah. And so that's the big thing tonight, is to start the connection, because we have to acknowledge that people were hurt, and then we have to go forward, and that connection, including the boys that were in the photo, and that they were hurt as well. When we've made those statements before, we've had some people that called us names for that. Sure. But the reality is all the social media is going to go away. A lot of the people that were contacting us couldn't find Baraboo if they Google searched for it right now. But at the end of the day, we still have to wake up tomorrow in our community.
Yeah. An important message there. All right, Chief Schauf, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, anytime. 6:19.